Now, moving to our next topic on the conversation, in the 2024 U.S. presidential election, various candidates and parties present diverse perspectives. We have the Liberals, led by Kamala Harris, Democratic Party, want to protect and expand healthcare, abortion rights, and social programs. Now, we also have the progressives like Bernie Sanders' Democratic Party push for even broader reforms. We have conservatives also led by former President Trump who aim to restrict abortion, cut taxes, and also to reduce government spending. Other Republican candidates such as Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley offer variations on conservative themes. But meanwhile, third parties like the Green Party, Howie Hawkins, and Libertarian Party, Joe Jorgensen, propose alternative solutions focused on environmental sustainability and limited government intervention. But with all candidates presenting distinct views, the big question we intend to focus on today is how this election will shape the future of African Americans and other diasporic blacks. And our guest today is Ejike Okpa. He's a global affairs analyst. Hello, Ejike. It's nice to have you in the studio with us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, so let's begin with black representation when it comes to politics in the U.S. How will the next administration, or how can the next administration ensure representation and diversity in government, reflecting the experiences of the black man?
Well, great question. I mean, blacks have served in various capacity in American government. That's, from the local all the way to the federal. We have had blacks secretaries of departments. We have had black senators. I mean, we've had an a black guy, in the name of Barack Obama, who is a Kenyan American, to serve as president. And now we have a nominee who we don't know whether she's Indian, black, or Canadian, or Jamaican. So black people have always played a role. The challenge is when they play those roles, how has that transformed a lot of black communities? A lot of black communities are still very depressed, very economically overlooked. Even though they have a lot of political presence, they haven't turned those presence into what we in America say, bring home the bacon. A lot of companies don't relocate to black neighborhood, and a lot of black politicians don't know how to whoop corporations to come to the neighborhood. I don't think in the present 50 governors in America, I don't think we have a black governor, but we have had some black governors.
Well, why do you think that there's such a disconnect between the black communities?
Because the black communities have heavily weighed on things that are very emotional. They look for sympathies. In America, you have to be strategic. We know the history of America is a history of slavery, is a history of racial preferences. But once you have made it, you have to mentally migrate and not just look at, what happened to your grandfather or whatever, your great-parents. We all are at the traffic light and it's green, and you don't stop for the next car. You just keep going. We have to embrace today's America and use the history that may not have, favored us. No history favored everybody. Everybody's come from a background of some sort of operational suppression. But once you make it, mentally, you have to project that image in order for you to move forward. You can't do a whole lot of progress looking backwards. Just like when you drive your car, you look at the rearview mirror, how much progress would you make? So take whatever that has happened in your past that you don't necessarily like and transform yourself to. I went to America, I wasn't born there, but I've been able to do the things that I wanted. I've been in that country for 37 years. I've been self-employed for a good number of 34 years. I didn't wait for anybody to wave a flag in front of me and say, oh, okay, Ejike, you're Nigerian, you are Igbo, come to America, this is your time. I embrace the country. I am an American by choice because my choice drives what I do in life. So if everybody or most people can do that, America will avail itself to you. But if you're looking for somebody to sympathize with you, well, they're just going to push you at the back, and you become a backbencher. You see other immigrants, you see Asians that get over there and do the things they do. The African, by their nature, is the person who will stay caught up on what the colonial masters did or what the slave masters did. It's a new day. Put that on the side. be bold and confident. You know, if you're not bold and confident in life, you're not going to do it. And we have people that have PhDs. There's no college or university in America a black person or African hasn't graduated. But apart from having the PhD, do they have the passion, the hard work and dedication that is required to transform their life? Because that's most important. You have to have a passion. You have to be willing to work hard. And then at the same time, you have to dedicate. Not just go in there and look at, you know, what white people did or white people don't want you to do. White people are human beings. Their anatomy is not different from that of any other human being. But they have been able to do what they do, command and control. The way to deal with them is that you come up bold. You come and say, you're not going to do that. Maybe you did it in 1700 or 1800, but today this is how you're going to relate to me in order for us to move forward.
All right, now we'll be coming back to education in a bit, but then let's talk about, you know, the criminal justice reform, you know, in America. There's been so much talk about it. How should the candidates' plans for criminal justice reform protect black communities from police brutality, you know, mass incarceration, sentencing disparities, and also systemic racism, which has been issues for a long time?
Good question. You know, criminal justice reform in America is a very touchy issue. America is is the most country that will criminalize anything, you know, from minor traffic violation. You could go to jail if you don't show up, and then there's a warrant for your arrest. But here's the other thing. It's a lot of black people today in America who are judges, okay? I know the judges don't do the legislation or the legislature that is needed, but they too can go back to look at the sentencing guidelines and make suggestions. Now, not everything that requires somebody to be incarcerated. You remember America do this to create this appearance of public safety and the fact, oh, we are afraid of black people, they may do this or they may do that. But now that we're having our own people, part of the legislature, part of the judicial system, then we should have the conversation. When I served as a grand juror, there's a difference between a grand juror and a juror in America. We reviewed about 1,500 cases, and I saw that how the judicial system can tilt negatively against minorities. And I wrote a reform, and I went to the judge and said, hey, can we push this? He said, Edward, we can't do it. I said, why not? Every law in America was introduced by somebody. You have to get to a point where you said, this law, maybe at the time I wasn't at the table, now I'm at the table and I want a review. That's what changes things in America. But if you don't have the confidence or you don't know how to do it, America is not going to do it. America is an experiment and is a melting pot, but in that melting pot, we have every ingredient in it. So you have to be able to show up and say, this does not work for my people, and this is why. And then you gather the vote, you put it on a ballot, and then you go in and you demand that change. For instance, if the chief of police in Dallas is doing certain things, it's not the mayor's job. The mayor does not control the police chief of Dallas. It's the city manager. And then the citizens can put on a ballot what we call issue ballots, propositions. We don't want you to police our citizens this way. Because in America, we don't have a national police. The police is the first source of your criminal justice contact. And if they get it wrong, it is wrong all the way to you getting sentenced. So we have to look at how we are policed, and how we are policed is just those violations that they write you ticket, they haul you to jail, and then if you're a minority, don't have money to defend yourself, you're going to sit in that jail. And then if they release you and give you a court date, if you don't show up, there's a warrant for your arrest. Yeah. And our warrant system doesn't have code numbers to say severe, mild, and this. Everything just warrant. And so a policeman picks you up. They get excited. They haul you in the back of that patrol car and they're taking your, taking your behind to jail. So we have to, again, the laws were introduced by people. The people that are going to be at the blunt end of this law are the ones that is incumbent on them to do what, push for a change. If you don't push for that change, it's not going to happen. Because white people typically are afraid of black people or the minorities. And any little thing you do, if you show up at the door of a white man in Texas, for instance, and they suspect that you're going to do something, they're going to shoot you. And once they shoot you, you're dead. You're gone. And then you go to court, and oftentimes there's not going to be an indictment.
Now, Ejike, sorry, just before you go ahead, most people actually talk about this, you know, with forgetting the ripple effect that it has on the families of the victims, especially if, you know, the victims are innocent. And, you know, in recent, there have actually been a high rate of wrongful imprisonment of black men, you know, recently. So if there aren't any, what support systems can candidates put in place to help black families to be able to heal from the trauma following these issues that, you know, have been listed, like racism, you know, wrongful incarceration and all that?
Again, a great question. You know, racism is going to be part of our life until we depart this earth. And if God had thought, you know, color of our skin is an issue, I think he would have, you know, waved the magic wand and all of us would look alike and we will be boring. What needs to happen is, you know, you believe in whatever color or you know, situation God has put you into, but you got to show up. And when you show up with confidence and be strategic. You know, sympathy does not get you anything with the Western culture. You know, the saying in the Bible, the meek shall inherit the earth. Typically, European man is not meek. If they were meek, how come they went to North America and did what they did to the Native Americans and they took over? And you see how they do the things they do in the world. So in order for you to be effective and be credible with them, you have to be confident, you have to show up unapologetic, you have to say, this is what I want it done, or we're not going to do it. So the criminal justice is just a trauma. You know, if you are locked up after a while and they found out that you shouldn't have been there, those number of years you have spent in jail is gone. So then it's just a therapy thing. They may pay you some millions of dollars to say, oh, sorry for what we did to you, but those years are gone. And so what we need to do is to make sure we prevent such things, because they're going to happen. Remember, the world is, you know, run and ruled by human beings, and there are no perfect human beings. There are no angels in politics. If there's nothing you get out of this conversation with me, note this. There are no angels in politics but angles. So you have to find the angle that works for you. And once the election is over, there's somebody who has won. Find a way to deal with them because they're in control of the resources that will impact your life. You don't withdraw and say, oh, my candidate didn't win, so I'm going to be miserable. No. You know, like amoeba in biology, do what? Reorganize, reshape, and go for that angle until the next time. What happens in America is, you know, most black people are democratic by nature, by disposition. So if a Democrat is in an office, they go away, they go and sulk. No. Look at white people. There are equal number of them that are Democrats and the equal number of them that are Republicans. So it doesn't matter who is in the White House, they get what they want. So why don't we learn that? You know what they say, age your bet. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. The thing that has affected the black people in America is the tendency to put all their eggs in one basket. No, spread the odds.
Okay.
I'm a Republican by choice, you know, because, I mean, I vote for Democrats who are my friends, but by my nature, I'm a Republican. And you know, hey, it doesn't matter who is in the White House or in the governor's office in Texas. I'm going to be effective because I have my angle and I have my relationship, and I'm still going to approach them as the governor of my state.
Which is very important, you know, when it comes to voting for leaders who would actually work. Now, earlier you also did talk about the disconnect between black leaders and also, you know, the black community. Now, let's talk about the consequences of voter suppression and disenfranchisement for black communities. What efforts should be made to protect and expand voting access, particularly in communities of color?
Hey, you look at me, what do you see? I'm a black guy. I'm an African, I'm a Nigerian. I'm not even an American born in that country. I have always voted. I became a citizen in 1995. I've always voted in every election, because the voting is something that I cherish, is my civic duty, and I step forward to do it. There is no voter suppression. You know, when they give you that, story, and, you know, it makes you to feel like, no. In America, our elections are organized by the states. You know, when it comes to state election, we don't have, we have a federal election commission, but they don't organize the election. So every state has that, and it comes from the office of the Secretary of the State. And then when it goes to the local elections, then it's organized like municipal elections are organized by the municipal council people. Then if it goes to the local government, it's organized by the county. But in all of this, they still want you to register. They want you to have an ID. If I'm going to have an ID, or if I'm required to take an ID to catch an airplane, why don't I show an ID when I vote? The only way people say they are suppressed is because they want to allege all these unfounded things, and then they make it look like, oh, nobody wants you to vote. I'm an immigrant who became a citizen, and I have voted, and nobody's ever suppressed my vote. It doesn't mean that whomever have voted is always going to win, but I'm always willing to go vote. I vote in school board election. I vote in every election that I know the outcome is going to impact my life. But once the vote is counted, and if it didn't go the way I wanted, I still got to live a life. I don't sulk. I don't cry. You know, I just said, okay, it's a new day. My guy didn't win, or my girl didn't win. I'm going to move forward. So most immigrants have to have that. Instead of just going into their cocoon or their neighborhood and start to say, oh, why people will always run things if you don't show up? Why people would do it? I mean, you look at racism in America, it's the same thing like tribalism in Nigeria. You know, when I was leaving Nigeria for America, my father pulled me to the side. He said, you go into a country where people are not going to know who you are. They're going to make fun of the way you speak. They're going to make fun of a whole bunch of other things. If you're going to have a problem with that, don't leave. Stay back in Nigeria. And don't call me from America that somebody doesn't like you. He said, I'm your father. Sometimes I don't like you, but I still claim you as my son. So we black people get caught up on who likes us, who doesn't like us. The world is not about that. If they like you, fine. If they don't like you, do them a favor, don't like them back. Cancel them out, just like in mathematics. You know, you cancel each other out, you move on. But don't sit around thinking that everybody's going to like you. No, Jesus was crucified despite all that he did. Hasn't life moved on? So take that attitude and be that way. Don't wait for anybody to do. The only time you can help somebody is like a child or an elderly. As an adult, you don't need to be helped. You just need to participate, and participate in a way to show I want an outcome that suits me. And that's what I have done in America. I don't want anybody to help me. I don't want anybody to give me anything. You work with me. America is a value proposition culture. If you have a value that makes sense, they're going to rally for you. And the way they rally for you is, hey, how can I work with you? What do you need? And that's how life is. At the end.
Ejike, now still speaking on a value proposition, you did give a background of when you moved to America and for how long you've been there, and you have been self-employed, all the while. So is there anything such as a racial wealth gap in America, or is entrepreneurship promoted, and are there jobs for black youths in America?
Well, again, it's all about competition. Remember the book Animal Farm? All animals are created equal, some are more equal than others by design or default. Look, if every white man in America is healthier than I am, or make more money than I am, then I'll have a problem, not with them, I have a problem with God. But they are not. I live in a very good neighborhood in America. I have things that people say, oh my God, you're doing well. But to me, it is something that I wanted to do, and I did it. When I studied estate management in Nigeria, I went to America, and even my uncle, whole lot of people said, no white man is going to hire you, no white man. And I said, why not? Because my father told me, he said, 1 + 1 is 2 anywhere in the world. The difference is the confidence and the attitude to express that knowledge. And I've always said, ask me about something. If I cannot prove it to you that I know it, then I don't know. I don't flash my degrees. I don't talk about titles. But in less than 3 years I was in America, I was a regional appraisal manager for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which is like the Nigerian NDIC, for an immigrant. This was 1988. Remember, I became a citizen 7 years after. And I was in charge of liquidating the largest portfolio of failed bank assets in America. I wrote the policy on how to liquidate failed bank assets. Did a white man stop me? I was interviewed for the job, and I demonstrated to the interviewers that I know what I'm talking about, and they gave me the job on merit. So if you get caught up on, oh, they're not going to hire me, they don't have time for that. I'm telling you, if you come watch me do what I do in Dallas. In 2005, I put together the first residential tower in downtown Dallas, 18 stories. The last one was built in 1962, so it was 40-something years I put this deal together, 18 stories. And the city of Dallas put $10 million into that project with 0 interest. Nobody's ever done that. And I did it as an American because I know real estate. And there are so many things I have helped to get changed in America that I have later to prove it. Because I believed in myself, and I was fortunate to be raised by a father who told me, go to America, be engaged and be involved. And don't you call me to talk about racism. Because they say, hey, I'm from Enugu State, and typically they say, well, white people. And he said, there are people from the next village who don't like you. So America is not going to be anything that you cannot deal with. But if you can't deal with it, stay back home.
Absolutely.
And then I was, and I have proven, I wish my father is alive to see me do what it is that he told me to do. And I have done it. Right now I'm putting together a 25-story building to be built on a Martin Luther King Boulevard by a group of Nigerian immigrants, the first to be built in North America.
All right.
In a black neighborhood.
All right. Congratulations, on that, Ejike. Now, talking about things that need to change, one is that has actually been, in talks for a really long time. It has to do with gun control and gun violence, which is actually quite high in black neighborhoods, if you agree with me. Now, do you think that the next administration should invest, in community-based programs to be able to prevent gun violence in these black communities?
Good question, because what you just asked me, I can give you a whole lot of things I have done. But, the right to bear a gun in America is not going to ever be removed from our constitutional rights, because it was put into the Constitution. And so if you want to remove that, the rights to bear arms, you have to have a whole lot of legislative processes. And then when you even get it passed at your state, you got to go to the national and then get into the amendment to the Constitution, which could take 50 years or less to get done. So, and then you go to the black neighborhood. In fact, the reason a whole lot of black people have guns, and because sometimes it's unlicensed, it's not registered, is because the police don't go to black neighborhoods. So they have to buy guns to defend themselves. So there's a whole lot of issues that are about these gun things that go on in the black community. And if you look at the violence, again, you will be surprised. Why is a people like us that have gone through slavery and colonization are so violent on each other? We should be the ones that prevent life. But in a black neighborhood, that's what they call the drive-by shooting. There's, drug issues and all of this other stuff. But when you when you point that gun, you're not pointing it to somebody that you don't know what they look like. It's going to be white or black. So a whole lot of us have taken to violence to deal with issues that we shouldn't. Because the black person, whether it be African or African American or the Caribbean part of it, we should cherish life, because we have been oppressed and suppressed and been made by other people to think less of ourselves. So if you have been made to think less of yourself, why are you exhibiting that character by killing your own? That's just a question we have to answer as black people, whether we are incontinent or outside of the continent. We shouldn't. But
I mean, not focusing on even the blacks. It's actually evident during the Donald Trump rally and how he was shot at. So, it's something that really needs to be cracked down on.
But the thing is, Americans have always aimed at their president. So from George Washington to whomever is going to be the next president, there's always an attempt. If the Secret Service were to publish all the attempts that are made on a sitting president, you will be shocked, because that's just the nature of the country. But it still has not prevented people that want to get to America. I have gun. I'm licensed to carry gun. If you show up at my door and I don't know who you are, believe me, I am pulling that trigger. And then I'll, it's a shoot and then answer the questions later on. So people, gun at least makes people to respect boundary. And if they don't respect it and they encroach on your space, you are legally authorized, if you live in Texas or in America, to fire them, kill them. And then let the police come and ask them a question.
All right, Ejike. Now, let's move on to healthcare, which is Affordable Healthcare Act. Do black people have access to affordable health care?
Yes, we do. Okay, you look at the American healthcare system, you have the county hospitals. If you're familiar, one of the biggest one is the Massachusetts General Hospital, which is, like a flagship. So you come to Dallas, we have the Parkland. Every county will have. And the thing is that The thing with the American healthcare system, if you are sick and you get into any emergency room, whether you have money or not, you must be treated. That is in our law. So whether you are insured or uninsured. But what has happened is that we now want a lot of people to do what? Have insurance. Because when you have insurance, you can choose what hospital you're going to go to, the quality of healthcare you're going to want to get. If not, you get whatever the government has provided for you, which is at the county level. When we pay our taxes, you know, if you look at our tax, all the entities that have a claim on that tax rate, we have what they call the hospital district, and that hospital district money goes to support healthcare. And then, of course, there are the federal mandates, and the state give money to hospital system. But the thing what's happened, you know, health is something that is an individual responsibility. A lot of health issues is by habit. If I tell you my age, you will not believe it, but I have never been sick. I've never had a headache in my life. I eat once a day. I don't eat fufu, I don't swallow, I don't eat egusi, because I have identified those things not to work for me. I don't have diabetes, I don't have cholesterol. And I'm well into my 60s, approaching 70s. And for me to do that, I recognize that, you know, if I don't take care of my health, no doctor knows your body better than you. So you have to have a discipline and a sort of habit to say, this doesn't work for me. And then if you identify that, you know, if you have, you know, some of us can have a genetic, you know, something that carries on. But a whole lot of it comes from what we eat and what we drink or what we smoke. I don't smoke. I have never injected anything into my body. That is why at this age, I'm in my 60s, I can ride 60 miles on a bicycle. You see my picture doing it, and I don't drink water. And it's because what? If this body of mine, when it's gone, it's gone. You know, no amount of mansion or money is going to repay it. When your health is bad, your wealth is nothing. So you have to have the responsibility to guard yourself. You know, my father used to tell me, he said, the fish that died a natural death is the one that stayed away from the bait.
Well, you're lucky to actually have a very strong immune system. We're about wrapping up the show now, Ejike, but let's quickly talk about, you know, the policies impacting Black immigrants. You know, you are an immigrant, and you know, I'm talking about those including from Africa and also the Caribbean, as long as you're Black. Now, the Democrats have actually promised a sweeping crackdown on illegal migration, while conservatives are asking Congress to, you know, give them more tools to manage an overwhelmed border and also create new legal pathways to immigrate to the U.S. Now, in your opinion, what are the repercussions of the candidates' immigration policies on citizenship for Black immigrants, especially those who face unique challenges and biases?
Again, good question. I think, you know, America is, when you go to America as a legal immigrant, what you have done without knowing it is that you have set yourself up to avail yourself of all the things that country has to offer you as an immigrant. The only thing you can do as an immigrant to America is you can run to be president of America. You have to be born in that country. But every other thing is available to you. And that's what I did. I'm an example of an immigrant who went to America legally. Because again, my father would not let me leave Nigeria until I showed him visa. And I was denied visa 2 times in Nigeria before I got it the 3rd time. And my father said, you are not going anywhere until you show me visa. At the time, they said, oh, you go change your name, get another passport. No, I'm a very proud guy. And if I want to come to your home, I come through the front door. No circumstances will make me jump your fence to come to your house. And that's what is illegal part of it. So every country integrity has to be protected by the border lines. But so if somebody cross your border, take your home as your country. If somebody break into it, how happy are you going to feel? So, I mean, you know, people have come in. Are we going to physically deport them, move them? We can't, but it's going to take a whole lot of taxpayers' resources to do it, and we're going to create a lot of sentiments and emotion. So what we got to do, what I have done and written to the Republican Party is that if you crossed illegally into America, you will never become a citizen. You can become a green card holder, but to punish you for violating our immigration law, you will never have rights to citizenship. You can live in that country as long as you want, but you will never have that blue passport. Would that thing become a law? I don't think so. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that every country, just like if you remember, I don't think you were born at the time when a lot of Ghanaians came to Nigeria. And then what happened? And they say, hey, Ghana must go. And they kick them out. So we have done it to ourselves. So if white people are doing it to us, we have to say, hey, respect people's boundaries, respect people's home. Our countries are our homes. We don't want our homes to be violated.
Absolutely, Ejike. Sadly, we actually have to wrap up this conversation. But, you know, I enjoyed speaking to you on this. Thank you so much for taking time out to be with us in the studio. Ejike Okpa, Global Affairs Analyst. We appreciate you for your time.
Thank you for having me.